ago. Joey Noakes at BYU ran 13:20 at BYU Terrier this year, and 28:05 on this track 2 years ago. He ran 13:27 at Stanford. Also, we've got some records on the line. William Amponsah of West Texas A&M could break the Division II all-time record. He's number 2 all-time at the moment. That was his 28 flat from a year ago here at this meet. So we've got a great field lined up here, Carson, and then I'll let you talk about him. He's not hidden anymore. Dylan Schubert of Furman.
Oh man, I'm so glad you tossed me to Shuby, because Dylan Schubert did something completely unprecedented back at the cross country nationals meet. He was 3rd overall after placing only 40th at the Wisco pre-nationals. He comes back just over a month later to nationals, running a 4K longer course, and runs the race of his life, just bursting onto the scene. He had been to 4 NCAA cross-country championships prior to that occasion. I mean, he just acknowledged the rarity of an athlete getting to run at 5 NCAA XC championships, and he made the absolute most of it. He just felt like it was that magical day where he could pin a goal like, let's say, get All-American and wind up 3rd. Just an incredible showing by the Furman Din.
So he seems to be unlimited. Schubert ran 13:17 after that NCAA performance at BU in December, and he just seems to be a guy where who knows what he can do. Now you see BYU moving to the front. That's Noakes on the inside, and Thompson now goes into second. Another player that two players we can't overlook. Ronald Ngedich of Oklahoma making his debut. The freshman ran 13:44 indoors. And then Elkanah Kiproto of Stephen F. Austin is also making his debut, 13:37 at BU Valentine. So we've got some guys here as we're coming into the end of 2, and our rabbit hits us right at 2:14. We've got some veterans with the BYU guys, and we've got some newcomers in Kiproto and in Ngedich at the collegiate level.
And you mentioned their 5K personal best that they ran in the indoor season. Again, that was back in the Januaries, the Februaries, and much further along here in the track and field calendar we are. You got to think that they'd be in similar 5K shape compared to the BYU guys who've dropped very low 28s. So just considering that on the surface, with nothing else considered, they're in a good spot to succeed with the entire field still together single file.
We just hit 2:47 for 1,000, and while I will never say that the BU track, it may be the fastest place in the world to run a 5,000, the conditions that these athletes have tonight are as optimal as you could have outdoors for a 10,000. So BU is the mecca, but what these athletes have right now is a great opportunity. We're at 3:21 through 1,200.
You mentioned BU, of course. Grant Fisher has touched this track before, the world record holder, world record setter at the 5,000 meter distance, the American record holder as well over 10K. I mean, what more can you say about him in the greater context of distance running? But again, these are just the atmospheres. Those launch pad meets indoors, these crazy distance carnival meets outdoors. That's where you want to be if you want to go fast.
So we're right on 67 pace with beautiful pacing up front from Texas Tech, tucked in behind the BYU duo. That is Ernest Cheruiyot, 4th in the NCAA. He ran 27:52 here a year ago and 13:28 at BU Valentine. Definitely a player, definitely a favorite. Cheruiyot making his debut, runs in 5th. Schubert currently in 7th among our leaders. We hit 1,600 meters in 4:28, just right on pace, fully dialed up and ready to go.
Schubert, the last guy you mentioned there in 7th, got to be riding a bit of a hot hand as far as his team success go. His teammate Carson Williams set an attached school record. He's run some sub 8:30s in the steeplechase while unattached, as he had redshirted back in 2024 outdoors. Didn't register any official performances with the Dinman, but just with all that considered, he dropped a very nice 8:30 under the lights here at Bryan Clay to start the night for Furman. Just a whole lot of expectations, and he's been training, Furman's Schubert is, that is, with Hobbs Kessler, an Olympic finalist in the 1500s, such as a broken 10K and repeat in 1K, 2K at 27-minute pace. I mean, he is on pace for something special as far as what he has set himself up to do, despite not having a whole lot of racing since the Valentine Invitational.
Hidden away in the Mountain West Conference is Jacob White, as we're at 5:36 at 2,000 meters. And White, just tucked in the center of this pack, could be a player. Fourth in the Mountain West Indoor 3K, up against the New Mexico guys. So keep in mind, the people that beat him in that race are among the greatest ever in the NCAA and some of the top runners in the world. 13:37 in a modest 5,000 2 weeks ago. So he could be a guy. He's running in about 20th, but at this point, pace or place does not matter. That could be a guy where, you know, you think about who he's run against in the Mountain West. That's no joke.
No.
So there's a guy that we maybe don't talk about a ton and doesn't get a lot of press in Wyoming, but he's in this race.
Absolutely, and you consider, just to put some names to those New Mexico greats, Ishmael Kipkurui and Haptum Samuel, guys that we're going to see run the 5K here tomorrow night under the lights for day 2 at Bryan Clay.
So would now be the time that we're thankful that we don't have bib numbers here at Bryan Clay, you know. So Haptum doesn't have to run off and get his bib number. So no, I love Haptum Samuel and what they're doing at New Mexico. I've had the chance to watch it a couple of times this year, and I'm been blown away. So yeah, they're just an amazing group, and that's why I say that about White, where that's who he went up against in Albuquerque, and I was there watching it, and it's just quite a show in the Mountain West. Moving on the outside, hip number 6.
That's Amponsah right there, our D2 number 2 all time. Again, that D2 record that he's going after has been on the books since 2008. That's 17 years from now. Scott Boss of Chico State set the mark of 27:48.06, and with these wave lights set for, well, they're set for 28 flat, but they've been moving well within that pace right around there. So,
and also, Carson, when I look at this race, it's a field where now we're at 18 to go, where this is well within, they're running within themselves. Like, they could get to 14 flat and still have a lot of run. I mean, you just see our train here, and we'll get a shot of this. These are 67s like nothing, but we've got a train of 25 guys that are basically together. You can see it here, and so down the back stretch.
The 67, the most important number that you mentioned, because even if an athlete hits the line, let's say 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds ahead of a trailer, they're moving at the same pace. And so as long as they keep that contact, once the race starts to break down, once those later laps start to come, that's where you can make that decision, start moving up.
8:23 at 3,000 meters up front, and you see that train. And
so just considering the kilometer splits that we've seen thus far, at third kilometer was, I'd want to say a 2:47, was it? I think, yeah, right around there. So they picked it up in that.
at sea level for 10,000 meters.
Looking very confident indeed. Did you see what I saw in that back straightaway right there? Creed Thompson from BYU was out front with his teammate Joey Noakes, but he chose to almost step off the gas and slot back into fifth. It was almost as though he was choosing. It was like, do I slot in here between first and second, second and third? And he eventually chose fifth place to slot in right behind the aforementioned runner in fourth that we were talking about from Alabama. The freshman, the Kenyan-born athlete, really giving it his all. Again, dropping down by nearly a mile in altitude from where he ran 28:36 last year.
Dylan Schubert is running in seventh at the moment and looks make it sixth, and just running with impressive comfort and confidence. And that is really the only way he could run when healthy after taking third in the NCAA in cross country. Amponsah right there as well, looking for that D2 record.
And they were very low 14s right there when they hit the 5K split. We didn't get an exact mark, but they're at 5,200 at 14:34 with now less than 3 miles in the race remaining. The decimals per lap have only slipped by about 0.2 or 0.3.
So 14 flat, 14:01 through 5,000 meters. So right on pace, right on the lights, and this field right on the heels of Joey Noakes. 28:05 2 years ago at Bryan Clay, and seems to swing wide here, looking to share the pace.
This is just what his teammate Creed Thompson did a couple of laps ago, but he's staying in front for now. He probably figures that doing this on a turn isn't the smartest of initiatives, but he's still got plenty of juice left in him, so he might have also decided why not keep going. Thompson has remained in fifth ever since he slotted into that position, just ahead of Schubert, just behind Dismas Lukira of Alabama.
Cheruiyot sits in second, and unless I'm mistaken, he has the fastest PR in the field at 27:52. So Cheruiyot with the experience, and now going to the front from Alabama is Lukira. So Lukira with an injection of pace here, and we'll see how much pace he throws into this race.
Oh.
Cheruiyot of Oklahoma, who was an SEC finalist indoors at 5,000 meters and has run 28:35 right there with him. The Division II standout, Amponsah of West Texas there. Now the BYU duo settles back. Schubert in our lead group, so 8 are away now.
It looked like, heading into that far turn, that Tobias Cheruiyot had to put his left hand on Ernest Cheruiyot, give him a little shoulder tap to make sure that he could get by cleanly. Now slotting into second, Cheruiyot, that being Ernest Cheruiyot, the runner in the red kit in third, looked a little bit boxed in. He's got to be pretty grateful that he's found some clear space to his front and rear now.
So you see our 8 men that are away. Jacob White of Wyoming leads the chase group. So there are 3 that are kind of fragmented back to another 5 or 6 or so. And those, as I say this, those chasers start to collect themselves and get organized. So there is White. And then the next chaser would be Baraki of Adams, who's 4th indoors at the Division II 5,000 meter championships, the Eritrean from Adams State. But up front continues to be Lukira of Alabama. He is right with Cheruiyot of Texas Tech. And then Cheruiyot of Oklahoma now drifts back a bit as we see a resurgence of Noakes, Thompson, and Schubert in as high a position as Schubert has been in this race, in about 5th place.
He is currently sandwiched by the Cougs, the Denman, Dylan Schubert, and that's huge because so long as the BYU teammates are separated, they can't perhaps execute the strategy that they had planning. They were initially looking like they wanted to trade the front running duties, but then decided, let's let the field do a little bit of that for us so that we'll have a kick coming home. Just so long as they stay close, though, I don't think that Schubert being in between them will exactly hinder their plans.
Carson, we can't lose track of Robin Kemawai Vera of Iowa State, who's 9th at Stanford in the 5,000 and 4th in the Big 12 in cross country. He's in that train. He is sitting just behind Creed Thompson. So those kind of guys lurking in the back of these races, not having to do a bunch of work. I know there's pace lights, but leading still takes effort. He's a guy that, you know, if he puts together a 56 last lap, could win this race.
Kevin, we may have been too quick to discount the clones. They've got their flag there on the far side, plastered on the wall. We didn't get to see it in this shot, but I remember seeing it earlier in the night, the Iowa State flag. You know, all these teams getting to set up their tents on the infield. The clones, they're going to have some really strong 1,500-meter runners, but they have 3 10,000-meter runners that have very significant chances of impressing in this race. They've got Sanele Masando, the South African native, the reigning Big 12 champion who went 1 and 2 with Saeed Mahal, and even Robin Koboi Barra, whom you mentioned, the Kenyan-born athlete. He's running his first track 10K, ran 29:09 last year, and he is right there towards the back of this front group, looking in about 8th approximately right now.
So getting into position, we're starting to see athletes really trying to find their spot as we're past that 20-minute mark and people having to make a decision. You see the Guatemalan Mendez, who ran 2:07 at Valencia and is a Pan American bronze medalist, not even in contention here as we start to narrow down. And this field, and there is White of Oklahoma mentioned, still giving chase. But Schubert is suddenly in 4th, followed by the 2 from Oklahoma, and he is behind this trio. So will Schubert strike? He's run, you know, his cross-country accolades being 3rd speak for themselves. When does he go? It's 6 to go now. It seems early, but there definitely seems to be an itch to go by this field.
And that's an itch that a guy like Dylan Schubert knows how to respond to. He knows how to control it as well. It can be tempting when you're feeling good to just let it rip. It's almost like a lot of what we've seen at the halfway point in some of these races, athletes saying like, okay, I'll take the lead, I'll try and stretch this pace out, maybe whether or not it be a misassessment. But Dylan Schubert, using his confidence, using his experience, that is exactly what he needs on his side right now.
St. Pierre of Wingate. So a year ago at the Last Chance meet, which is the second meet here held at Azusa, 29:17. He ran 13:41 at Raleigh. He is trying to make contact with this group. Also, now we have 2 from Iowa State that are part of the conversation here. And we haven't even mentioned the second from Iowa State,
Saeed Mahal.
Saeed Mahal is among our leaders and trying to stay with this lead group. Nothing has changed with our front 5 or 6, but there's some players that are trying to be part of the conversation in the top 8. And that includes Mahal, as Quimoy Barra now slides up to the front. We're starting to lose Thompson off of our front group. Noakes is still there. This might be a big throwdown. as these top four are starting to get away from Schubert as we approach 8,000 meters, or correction, we approach 4 to go. So this would be 8,400 meters in 23:20. Schubert is still there. I thought he was starting to come off of that group. He runs in 5th.
Look at that lap, though, by Robin Koimoy-Berra. 65.3. We were running 67s, and this entire septet that is in contention for the lead is dropping minimum 66s right now, or should I say maximum as far as numbers are concerned. They are really kicking now in the final mile.
So the interest in the pace lights just became boring for Amponsah of West Texas State. The Division II champion is now decided that the pace is going to be his as opposed to the lights, and he is on the move. Cheruiyot decides to go. Lyra right there with him, Lokira rather, and Lokira now bursts to the front. Now these three are away, and it is game on. Schubert trying to respond. 3 to go.
3:13 is what Amponsah, the athlete from West Texas A&M, needs for a D2 record, as he nearly tripped there on the rail.
64.7, and Schubert in contact. We thought we had lost him and that our podium was settled, but Schubert right there as Lokira, again, 28.36, but that was at 5,800 feet. He's at about 500 feet of elevation here and soaking up that oxygen as he continues to roll up front. Cheruiyot, Amponsah, and Schubert in contact. And then an Iowa State duo that is really still kind of there. Like they're on the edge, but we're getting down to 4.
Dylan Schubert stayed nice and smooth over that last lap, whereas the 3 guys in front of him were all jostling for position. That's what he needs to rely on in this stage of the race if he wants to execute his kick like we've seen him do in the past.
The ease with which Dismas Okira is running from Alabama is unbelievably impressive. Not that Ernest Cheruiyot of Texas Tech is showing any strain, as now he kind of swings wide. And Amponsah of West Texas A&M, he looks pretty good too, as does Schubert. And now we've got contact by Iowa State.
Looks like the Cyclones are trying to tuck in. Saeed Mahal has broken a little bit away from his teammate, Robin Koimoy-Berra, who made the initial charge to the top group, but now just look at the way they're turning it over, just really snapping it down, letting it loose. They're gonna come up to the bell lap, and it'll be the young man from Alabama leading over the Texas Tech Raider, the D2 stud, and the Furman Dinman moving wide. Here comes Dylan Schubert.
And now Schubert goes to the front.
Look out for Mahal.
26:47 at the bell with 5 men right together. And it's Schubert.
He's in such a great position right now, Kevin. You see the other athletes having to go around each other just to try and get position. He's going to have to keep it reserved and relaxed if he wants to stay on that front.
Cheruiyot giving chase. Amponsah down the backstretch. It's down to Schubert and Cheruiyot with Iowa State and giving chase, but this is Dylan Schubert and Cheruiyot. Schubert with the turnover. And Schubert continuing to roll here. He's got the edge, but he is the hunted at the moment. 3rd in cross country, looking to turn in a big time 10,000 here. It's Schubert on the inside and Ernest Cheruiyot on the outside. The cross country All-American, the track All-American, stride for stride, impossible to call. And it looks like Cheruiyot of Texas Tech, but it is Schubert in 27:45.63, and he gets it by 2/100ths of a second. Amponsah takes down the Division II national record of Scotty Bowes in 4th, and a huge run for Schubert. I just didn't think he had it in him. It seemed like Cheruiyot had it in the last 50.
It seemed like he was going to pull ahead, but that refusal to lose by Dylan Schubert got him to that line first. That was such an exciting finish. The Furman crowd was on its feet. Schubert just dug in. He leaned so hard for the line. That is just what you got to do sometimes. Bring that dog out of yourself, as they say these days. Dylan Schubert, the fan favorite Furman Dinman, gets it done at Bryan Clay Invitational.
So Schubert is now number 2 on the collegiate list on the season, and his championship pedigree that he earned over 28 minutes during cross-country season at Wisconsin paid off here, because there were moments where he appeared to be dropped when he was in 5th over that last 1,000, and I kind of stopped saying his name for a little while because it seemed like Lokira was going to take it from Alabama. Cheruiyot was always right there and did a minimal amount of work in the race. Not a criticism, tremendous tactics on his part. But Schubert was off, and then he closed with confidence, especially coming into a lap to go. He caught himself into position and then found a gear over the last 150 to take it.
His timing was so well. You flash it back to that third to last lap, approximately thereabouts, where that contact took place heading into the turn 1 between the Division II